Robot Alchemic Drive is a PS2 game with some very choice voice acting and some very unique controls for piloting your giant robot. Notably, you're not piloting it technically because you aren't really inside of it. In order to walk, you alternate pressing the shoulder buttons, and to swing the arms around, you have to swing the analog sticks around. And when I say you have to do those things, I do mean that you have to do those things because I have found a much more challenging and gimmickier way to play Robot Alchemic Drive. And, well, you saw the title, you know what it is. Meganite, Showtime! Advance past through tutorial dialogue to get to the good stuff. Right step. Left step. Left 45. Right punch. Left straight. Right upper. Left chop. Right step. Left 45. Advance. So you might ask why I've done this, and the answer is that I watch too many mecha shows and I have too much free time on my hands. You might ask how I've done this, and the answer to that is with the power of VoiceAttack. VoiceAttack, which you can get through the developer's website or Steam, is a program that lets you create control macros for whatever you're doing on your computer. Keyboard presses, mouse movements, the works. And if you couldn't tell, it also uses a speech recognition engine to let you activate those macros with your voice, which kind of takes Robot Alchemic Drive from being Tetsujin 28, where the kid controls a robot with a controller, into being Giant Robo, where the kid yells commands into a radio in his watch, on top of the default dude making the whole game into a big might gain reference. But what else can you do with VoiceAttack? Well, I really don't want to play Helldivers 2 without VoiceAttack anymore because it is just so nice to be able to just say Arm Eagle 500. And it happens. And when I could play Gundam Evolution, and I did lock in the new Gundam even though I wasn't really good at it, do you think that I actually pressed a button to fire the fin funnels? No, the question was as rhetorical as you think. Of course, I set up a command in VoiceAttack to press that button when I said funnels. But we are talking about Robot Alchemic Drive, the PS2 game. So I do need to explain my setup because it is a little bit idiosyncratic. This is running on PCSX2 version 1.6.0. I've tried it with 2.2.0, but there's a stumbling point that I'll get to in a minute. I also added PCSX2 to Steam so that Steam handles the controller integration for me. This is also using VoiceAttack version 2. Whether you have version 1 or 2 doesn't matter for this setup, it works for both, but they did just replace it with version 2, so I wanted to head off any confusion if you see that come up when you're searching for it. And in case it matters, I am using a Switch Pro controller. So PCSX2 can handle dual inputs. It doesn't have any problems when I switch between button presses and keyboard presses. It also handles this for the analog stick inputs, which is that stumbling point I mentioned earlier. With what I'm doing with 1.6, the analog sticks work. With 2.2, if the controller is turned on, the keyboard inputs for the analog sticks don't work consistently. In general, outside of this one niche thing, I do recommend 2.2 for everything. There are so many quality of life upgrades, but it doesn't work with what I'm doing here. So I just needed to go into the emulator settings, assign everything a key, and then I made this exact note that is sitting on my desk to reference. So what does this look like? Well, this profile is a little bloated from having a bunch of test commands that I don't use and some things that I did just for fun, but probably in the 60-65 range to replicate everything you need to do with a controller. So when I said advanced earlier, this is what happens behind the scenes. And it's actually very simple. The Meganite controls in Robot Alchemic Drive are really very discrete, atomized button presses. No analog aiming, no need for slow or gradual movement, it is just button pressing all the way down. So when I say advance, it alternates shoulder button presses, holding long enough for the Meganite to take a full step, and releasing. And you note in the bottom right that drop down box next to repeating. This repeats continuously until stopped. So because there are commands that are holding buttons down indefinitely and commands that are repeating indefinitely, the stop command is very important to have, and all that does is just stop every command that is currently running. Just the easiest way to get back to neutral if something ends up accidentally held down. The ARM commands are also button presses. Robot Alchemic Drive isn't looking for any intermediate positions on the analog sticks, just the extremes of up, down, left, right. So a straight punch is just tapping down, up. But you can get more involved. No whammies does a right uppercut, pauses, and then a left uppercut. And this also repeats until I say stop. And because the game allows me to walk and turn while controlling the arms, I can just walk forwards, swinging my arms, and if someone gets hit, that's their fault, not mine. So the turning is timing based. I spent some time in the training mode eyeballing it to figure out what looks closest to a 90-degree turn, and then having and doubling that for 45 degrees and 180 degrees. It may be a little bit off since I have eyeballed it, but nothing that has been a huge problem through playing the game. The Meganites have different turning speeds, which is the biggest reason that I made a profile for each one. Again, I eyeballed it to make it look basically right. It does make the game a little more challenging to not have the same fine turning as I would if I was using the controller, but it is absolutely not impossible. And since they are my profiles, I can take all the special attacks and make as many references as it takes to make me happy. You've seen the Big O references, but there is also Mazinger Z, Getter Robo, Zeta Gundam, Great Mazinger, Blue Comet SPT Lasner, Dan Kuga, Gunbuster, Gao Gaigar, and Mazin Kaiser. But if you want to play at home, you don't need to remember all that. I have put a link in the video description to download some VoiceAttack profiles that I made to share, and adding them is as easy as going to this button with the plus sign and arrows and hitting import. Just find where the downloaded files went to and add them in. Aside from the Showtime command, these profiles just use the names in the manual and in the game. But VoiceAttack is endlessly customizable, so you can change them to whatever your heart desires. But you only saw me in the training mode earlier. How does this actually play? Well, let's start a mission up and have a little live fire exercise.
A Volgara? Why now?
Well, you know how it is. Once an episode and all. And now we're just going to leave Nanao behind in the school. Which, that's about
A
typical
Class
for
A evacuation
Nanao.
warning has been sounded for all of Senjo. A Volgara robot is approaching the city. The residents are urged to
Get up
evacuate
on the
immediately
building.
as guided by the authorities.
We're ready to launch. You can launch by pressing the select button.
We're not pressing the select button to launch.
Roger, we've got to protect the school.
Meganite, showtime! So that overlay on the side of the screen is the VoiceAttack command window, so you'll see all the commands as they pop up. $180. Crouch. Jump. Right, 45. Advance.
EGG's Ellen here. I'm in the high school. A girl's been left in the infirmary.
Yep. They evacuated the entire school and left Nanao behind. That's also typical for Nanao.
Oh my goodness! The enemy has started spinning. It's like an enormous top. No, more like a tornado.
Stop.
The Volgara tornado is about to swallow Senjo.
Left 45. Left 90. No whammies. These are the best dudes to no whammy. See? Stop. Right, 90. Chest missile. Chest missile. Right step. Right straight. Left 45. Right step. Crouch. Daisetsuzano Oshi. Toss him up and send him flying. Left 45. Photon power beam. Chest missile. Chest missile. No whammies.
EGG's Ellen here.
Advance.
I found the girl. We're leaving now.
Stop.
We're registering an energy signal. Another Volgara is about to phantom out.
We got the first one before the second one even showed up in this mission.
What?
A second Volgara has appeared.
Now there are two of those tornadoes? It won't be easy to protect the school,
Yes, it will.
but it must be done. You're the only hope.
Right, 90. Advance. Stop. Left, 90. Fire Blaster. Advance. Stop. No whammies.
That's showing them.
And that's how it's done. And that's all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed watching me show off the wacky way I've decided to play this game. Take care, and be kind to each other out there.